Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Monday, the 11th of March. In Paul's second letter to the Corinthians in chapter 10, he says the following in verse 10, what people were saying about him. Some say his letters are weighty and forceful, but in person he's unimpressive and his speaking amounts to nothing. I read that and thought, this is Paul that they're talking about. Paul, whose missionary endeavors saw the church planted in much of the Roman world, whose writings form the bulk of the New Testament, and the ancient church and the scriptures have had a profound impact on Western society and therefore, by extension, into the rest of the world. And this by somebody who is unimpressive and whose speaking amounts to nothing. Bears thinking about. And Paul a little earlier said the following. He said, the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. And you're saying we don't do things the way the world does because we're relying on God, not the method, not the strength, not the politics, not whatever it is that the world values. And he said that a number of times. Jews look for signs, Greeks look for wisdom. We preach Christ crucified because that's where the power is. And as Christians, we need to align with that and say we will do things God's way, even though the world expects something different. And we can easily fall into a worldly view. And I think there are many people that have. You need such a church of this kind of size, and your stage night needs to look like this and have certain lighting and wear a certain kind of suit and, if possible, a certain watch on your arm and a certain size a lectern that you'll speak from or podium, and you can be impressive. And people do. And the problem is that you start relying on what you're doing and you start doing things the way the world does. And we start using the weapons that the world uses. And we will always come up short in that regard because the people of the world are so much better at it than we are. And we need to get back to Paul and say we'll use those things where it's helpful, but that's not what we're going to rely on, because the weapons we use, the methods we use, the way we do things is not the way of the world. On the contrary, we have weapons, we have systems, we have ways of doing things that have divine power to demolish strongholds. So be encouraged to step into the world knowing that if we're doing things God's way, we have God's power, we have God's blessing, and God works through it. Paul did it that way, and we see the impact he had, and we pray that we'd have this similar kind of impact in our social circles, in our families, amongst our friends, in our world. Be encouraged to rely on God and know that we're blessed.